This is the opportunity of a lifetime for people that have businesses and brands out there. Email us right now at advertise at hiphopun.com and you will get an opportunity to put your brand right in front of each video that we do. And let me tell you, the prices are crazy affordable. You definitely can afford it. Email us.
Bar area.
Mm.
And I tell you what, too, let's look at something else. They make us pay the tax. Black Panther. Disney and ABC badly needed some money. Why? They jacked up some white folk in this thing, so you want to be a millionaire. So the people that felt aggrieved sued them for about $7-8 million. Well, they won, and ABC and Disney kept appealing, and finally they got through the federal system. Went up to the 9-member Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. It's an interesting opinion. It starts off, it seems that this industry does not recognize Rule 1 in American contract law, and that is all parties are expected to deal with each other well, taking the language just straight up and be honest in good faith. Okay. Yeah. So they said, we'll fix that. So they raised the judgment from the requested $7 or $8 million to $580 million.
Sheesh.
That was in 2011. And the United States Supreme Court refused to hear it, so it was affirmed. So there's no appeal. So the plaintiffs hold liens against all ABC property in the country and all Disney property. And most of the rides at Disney World down in Florida, and a lot of them at Disneyland, had everything that came out of it other than operational expenses going through to the plaintiffs. So they couldn't pay the interest, and the judgment had risen over $1 billion some. So Hollywood has very little cash. They do a lot of reciprocity and exchanges and all of this other stuff. So they came up with the Black Panther movie. And my sources tell me they were discussing it in the hallways about predictably how they could get black folk to pay a lot of money. Now, what did they do? They got a formula. I used to hear them discuss it when my show was with Paramount. Now, the formula is interesting, but let's take that movie. The worst thing in the movie was that last battle between the men and the women of the tribe trying to kill each other. Mm-hmm. The women committed treason by propping up the old Panther that Killmonger had defeated. Killmonger didn't have any super drug in him to give him super strength. He beat
fair and square
the Panther's ass, fair and square, threw him off in the water. The guy survived. Well, the babes committed treason against the rules of the culture, and they go to help him. Now, who did they go to enlist in their effort to overthrow the now rightful King Killmonger? They go and get some black folk who live where it snows all the time in caves, cavemen, and this is supposed to be in Africa, where Mount Kilimanjaro on the other side of the continent from.
Yeah.
You see, and then they don't have any black men that can fly that virtual fighter plane. They got to get a white CIA guy to do it. Mm-hmm. And you don't see any black men doing a damn thing except in the background the spectators are pushing a cart. They got that guy with the big lip disc in who's some kind of preacher stand-in. Yeah, they got that, but the mama runs things, the aunt runs things. His bodyguards are actually his keepers who tell him and nag him about what to do and not to do. And he runs around in some tights playing vigilante. Now, Killmonger, meanwhile, his daddy was the brother of the past king. And what was he doing? They listed him as being in some projects, public housing on the West Coast, and he's trying to teach these boys how to be men. So he gets killed because he wants to take the technology that Uganda has,
Mm-hmm.
Wakanda has, whatever the hell the name is, and use it to subdue Africa and take over the whole world and impose peace. So he goes through MIT. He graduates at 19. He's a rocket scientist. He becomes a SEAL. He's so badass they give him the nickname Killmonger. He plans, plots, and gets his head together for revolution. He's supposed to be the bad guy, and they have him talking what Frederick Douglass said, Marcus Garvey said, Du Bois said, Malcolm X said, a little of what Martin said, and what H. Rap Brown said, and they make him the villain. And they got all these little black kids and black women, hey, they're cheering for him to be put down. You know, so they make him the villain. And in the comic book, Killmonger is a person that engages in illicit drug sales and sex trafficking, where the Black Panther, who sounds like Killmonger in the comics, goes from Africa to Harlem to go deal with him because of his international influence negatively on black folk. They flipped the script all the way around.
Mm.
And then the final thing is, when you have one of those Marvel movies, if you wait through the credits, you'll get more to the movie. And then finally, the Black Panther is telling all these white people in the UN that they're going to help them. And the guy says, excuse me, with due respect, sir, why in the world would we be interested in what some backwoods agricultural place has to offer us?
Mm.
See, so I mean, it's like that was predictable. And I'm so angry about one bad circumstance, and not so much that it was the highest grossing superhero movie of all time, but out of every city in America, the highest gross for box office came out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow.
The largest predominantly black city in America.
Yeah.
And they had folk buying up 25, 30, 50 tickets at a time for parties they organized 2 and 3 weeks in advance. And you can't even get them out to organize saving their own neighborhoods like that.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm just saying, damn, they ripped us off. And then I got the word back. They were rejoicing. Yeah, we got the African American bunch once again bailed us out. See, that's how these folk got established more than 50 years ago. The movie industry was going bankrupt in the face of color TV. And every Thursday and Sunday, every movie theater in America had 2 new movies, plus cartoons and a sub feature. And that made the studios come up with several hundred movies or productions a year. And they couldn't afford it in the face of color TV. So they got a bright idea, and they had all these newbies who were part of this cabal that came in, and they said, look, let us pose something for you. One, instead of having 2 new movies every Thursday and Sunday, let's keep the movies as long as people will come, and let's tap all of this cash out there in underrepresented communities. We want to deal with the black community. We call ourselves black then. So what did they do? Said, we're not going to give them all of these things we give white people because they can't see themselves being leaders and businessmen, all of this, that, and the other. We need to appeal to the lowest common denominator. So let them be caught up in our glorification of pimps, hoes, drug dealers, gangsters, robbers, murderers, burglars, and every kind of punk ass whatever we can think of, and get all of their money. And then they had, Black Caesar had a football player, Fred the Hammer Williams. And he played this drug dealer who was also a hitman, and he rides off into the sunrise smoking a big cigar. after they had this shootout in Long Beach and no LAPD, no sirens or nothing, and the place is full of dead folk after this shootout. All right. And then 18 months later, they have, what is it, Superfly, Rod O'Neal with a wig on top and his hair pressed, driving a pimp mobile, selling coke. Yeah, man, we got to get into this coke, man. That's some deep shit, man. And Freddie's dead, but Superfly is what it is, and Rod O'Neal's characters, they do 5 more movies in the franchise, and everybody switched from wearing dashikis and afros and beards, and now broad collar platforms, fried their hair again, driving pimp mobiles, talking about, yeah, man, about that cane, man. And the FBI started flooding the neighborhoods with coke, and then you got the jackass in chief sitting in the White House. He in 1977 and 79 and 81 with John B. Stennis and Eastland, James O. Eastland and Byrd, all these racist Klansmen. They started putting stuff in place, and Biden was going around saying, one rock will get you 5 years in a federal penitentiary, and that means the whole 60 months, not just a few months. One rock, and you got that crap going in because that came off of Freebase. Then you got that crackhead Hunter Biden son of his. So,
Right.
you see that dude's teeth, man? Damn, he must have been doing crystal meth too on top of the crack. That dude's teeth rotten as hell. Looked like he came out the Middle Ages someplace, somewhere down on a country ass farm, down in a swamp somewhere, down in Louisiana.
I kind of got a 2-part question to add on to the whole Black Panther thing. One will be part 2 of the movie. It seems like it's like a woman thing going on with that, especially the cover. And then the death of Chadwick Boseman. They say he died from cancer. Obviously, it looked like it. Do you think that has
yeah.
Could you speak on that?
Well, let me put it this way. Did you see the movie Jackie Robinson, 42? See the one on Thurgood Marshall? See the one on Joe Louis? Did you see Gods of Egypt?
Didn't see that one.
No.
See it.
Okay.
Somebody plays the flamer in that, who is the god of wisdom. I mean, just flaming. You can feel the heat all the way back in the 37th row of the theater. That's part of this thing where they identified the parts, not with the character, but the actor. So they're trying to push fluid gender. So this same person plays a badass boxer, a hell of a lawyer and civil rights activist who used to be known as Mr. Baseball because he always carried a baseball bat. He was notorious for warming somebody's head. That's Thurgood Marshall, and he always had a requirement when he went someplace, have me a 12 gauge and a carton of buckshot. So comes to that, we can deal with it. And Mr. Baseball, number 42, 42, yeah. And you see, you can be flamer, you can be boxer, you can be baseball player, you can be brilliant scholar. That's what they did, or you can be superhero. So that's what they were doing. And this movie, the next one coming up, it's like Woman King.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really poisonous. You know what the story is behind that? First off, there was no woman king. They had a queen, but there was an active king. There were 3 brothers, blood kin in Dahomey. And they were tribal nobility. Well, the tribe in question was paying tribute to the Yoruba up north of them in Nigeria. So they hooked up a deal with the white folk, the Dutch and the English, to supply large number of slaves for them. What they did is interesting. They had every guy who was an official or a war chief countered by a woman counterpart who was close to him by kinship or something. And the king kept the women in the court with him so he could control them. And he gave each woman veto power over what their male relative or kin did as an administrator or as a war chief, so he could keep things under control. He would not allow any of the African aristocrats to participate, so there would be no rival. And he did set up a small unit of Amazons to go around and try to do a little police work or report back to him. So that continued for quite a few decades when the slave trade was going on. When the Europeans said no more slave trade, and the Americans in the Constitution said no more slave importation after, I think it's either 1807 or 1806, somewhere there, 1808. They decided to suppress it, and they quickly fell. So there was no woman king anyway. But what they did is the feminists glorified this to get people used to the idea, and they are glorifying some people who were enslaving a lot of their fellow Africans. Not saying it wasn't done, but they ramped the process up. An analogy would be, let's supposing Jewish women decided that, okay, women aren't being honored enough for being aggressive. Let's pick a German woman in World War II, even if she happened to be a Nazi and she was rounding up Jewish people and sending them to the concentration camps. Let's honor her. Well, that's the equivalent of what they did with that movie. They picked a woman who was in a position and her Confederates who were in a position because they were promoting slavery. Now that's the reality.
Deep.
Very deep. In the building right now with Judge Joe Brown.
Yeah.
Straight cooking, man. Shout out to Maurice Duncan, man. Brother who set this joint up. Definitely appreciate everything you got going on.
Yeah, Maurice is a hell of a young brother. I like him.
Yes, sir. Just want to end on a light note. We definitely appreciate you and we'll love to have you back on, but don't want to hold too much of your time. A lot of people throughout time has definitely done some funny ass impersonations of you. Are you like the type of brother that enjoys those, or did you take offense to any of those?
They crack me up. I have thick skin. But before I say that, there's two things. I'm delivering service and selling sauce these days.
Yes, sir.
JJB BBQ. That's Judge Joe Brown. JJB BBQ. That's barbecue. JJBBBQ.com. Go there and get yourself some. You'll find it's the best sauce you've ever tried. And we have it going out on the shelves in California now. We'll be spreading across the country. You can order yourself the stuff online. I'd suggest at least 3 bottles. You'll save a lot on the shipping cost. And we just signed some paperwork with a large online business that delivers in these electric trucks.
Nice.
So we're going that way. And the other thing is, I'm semi-retired. I don't need to work except for amusement or to keep myself occupied or doing the right thing. But they talked me into running for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee.